Hello again, guys and girls, welcome back, and let me introduce you guys to a brand new series called The Road to GOW4. Now, whether you want to call it yourself the road to the next Gears game, the road to the perfect Gears game, the road to Gears of War 4, I don't mind. But the purpose of this series is for me to get my points across upon what I believe to be the very best in what we can achieve with a Gears of War game, in what Epic can produce for a Gears of War game, so that we as Gears of War players in general can enjoy the very best and the very utmost amazing game possible out there, and with the help of the support of the community, and hopefully we can agree on some things out there, we might actually be able to achieve this. And I know some of you guys might be sitting there at home saying, a new series, Chris? What's the point in that? Why don't you just, do one video? Well, I've thought about this, and I want to do the most comprehensive and completely overwhelming series possible, and I just want to get through every tiny nook and cranny of every part of the Gears of War games, just so I can make sure each and every little bit of the next Gears of War game, should they take my advice, is as good as possible, just because I want it to be as good as possible, because I love Gears of War. It is my favourite competitive multiplayer game, and it's gonna stay that way for a long while unless something new and amazing comes out, because Call of Duty is good, Halo's good, but Gears, for me, that is the shit. So yeah, so basically in this series I'm going to go through a whole different bunch of episodes covering a whole different bunch of things and aspects of the game, going from everything from movement speed to down but not out to weapon balance to how the mechanics of changing your weapon should work and things like that. I want to cover everything out there. But for this episode, guys, I wanted to just do an introduction and a prologue to talk about the main point I want to get across when it comes to making the next Gears game. And it seems like a pretty pessimistic point, I guess, when I vocalize it like this. But basically, my main point is ditch Judgment. That is basically my main point. And the reason for this is, Judgment is a great game, but I've made this point many times before, it's not a great Gears game. It does good at, it is good at what it does. It's a good free-for-all game, it's fun to play, but it's basically a couple of Gears of War mechanics meshed together with a couple of other mechanics from some other games to make a game, and it's not Gears of War. It doesn't promote Gears of War style gameplay. The closest we get to that is power weapons and Nasher. That's pretty much the closest we get to it. And pretty much everything is different. You jump off roofs, you can, you only have two weapons, you use the Y button to swap. It's just crazy. It's so different, and yeah, it's fun, but Gears of War's better than just fun, and that's why I want that, as opposed to just another random game. And yes, I get it, we don't want the same old thing every single time we play the game, but we do want something that is both fresh and good at what Gears does, and the best we can get out of Gears. So, what I wanted to go through was quickly, if the developers, they don't want to bother watching 10 episodes of this series, what would I quickly sum up to make the best Gears game with just a few quick changes to Gears of War 3. So, assuming you're starting from Gears of War 3, here is what I believe you need to change. First off, stopping power gone. Obvious reasons. I mean, I can't even begin to think that anybody couldn't comprehend why you would want stopping power gone. It just slows down gameplays, it makes the rifles well too crazy. I mean, most people don't actually experience this, but come from a player who played competitively, come from a player who played quite a bit of ranked, played against people who wanted to use their rifles all the time, just because they wanted to win. There was a guy called NV Fitz who attended EGL 8, and we played loads of scrims with him before. That guy, literally, he just understood the fact that the Lancer was stronger than the Nasher. And since you're not allowed to use the Hammer Burst, or the Retro, or the Sawn-Off, when it comes down to starting weapons, when you only have two starting weapons, one's more powerful than the other, you use that the majority of the time. So I understand how strong the Lancer was, just purely down to stopping power. It's the same with the Retro and the Hammerburst. I mean, it does give them a massive boost to the fact that you can't get up in their face with an Asher. So it does affect them as well, but overall, I mean, the Nasher needs to be the main slaying weapon, and the rifles need to go back to being support, because that adds depth into the game. That adds a little bit more kind of strategy into the game, as long as you can have the Nasher, which is the main Slayer weapon, but you have to get up close to it. So if two people are lancering you as you run at them, you're down, you're dead. But if one person's lancering, you should just be able to take them out. But it's not the case in Gears of War Judgment, it's not the case in Gears of War 3, and I'm fairly sure it's not the case in Gears of War 2, although I didn't play it that much. Or at least not that much in a competitive style. I was fairly poo at Gears of War 2, and fairly poo at Gears of War 1, but I enjoyed Gears of War 1 the most. So that's a fairly obvious one. Other one is get rid of the active damage boost. Now these are the two things which were taken out in Gears of War Judgment, which was a great way forward, but then they did a whole lot of other crap things as well. So yeah, active damage boost, fairly obvious. It just imbalances fights, and there's really no need for it. It's just pointless, really. Other than that, weapons. Every single weapon from Gears of War 3 was pretty much overpowered in some way or another. You could one-shot down people with the Nasher. You could push people back with the Lancer with stopping power. You could shoot people from 50 feet away with the Hammerburst. You know, every weapon was overpowered in some way, so they need to bring back the damage of each and every weapon. Do not get rid of ranged drop-off like they did in Judgment. That was awful. Keep that the same. Balance the Nasher out so it's got really low range, but not like you did in Judgment, because then at point-blank range, even if you hard-aim someone perfectly, you've got like a 90% chance that you're just going to miss unless you get absolutely pixel perfect. So yeah, I mean, they need to balance out the weapons so they're a lot weaker than they were in Gears of War 3, because Gears of War 3, everything was overpowered in some form or way. Other than that, I mean, there's a few other things I might mention, but Gears of War 3 was pretty close. I guess get rid of the mantle kick, because that was a really poo idea as well. That was just awful, like it never worked. And cover play battles where you were fighting over the cover, they were just fantastic. I don't know why we needed the mantle kick to go in the game anyway, but literally now I either get two things. I never get cover play battles. I either get someone trying to mantle kick me and they do, or trying to mantle kick me and they don't, and when they come over I shoot them in the face and they die. That's literally how cover battles go now. Other than that, like I say, there are a few other things out there, but those are the simplest things I can think of to improve Gears of War. Better weapon balancing, and get rid of those silly mechanics like get rid of the active damage boost, get rid of the stopping power, and get rid of the mantle kick, because those were silly. So yeah, that's what I would like for a Gears of War 3 to be improved, in short. So what else was I going to cover in this video? Why am I making such a long series? Well, I've pretty much covered that anyway, but I'll go over this again. Just because I wanted to go through such a long series was because I tried this in a video before, and I tried doing like a one video which was going to be cut up into parts, and it ended up being like an hour and a half long, which was crazy, but that's just how it was. So I decided to come to this conclusion, which was the best idea was to come into this, do loads and loads of episodes which cover everything possible, and that can get my opinion out there. I also wanted to do something on the side where I did my history as a Gears of War player. That would just be one video, really. So that would be something I'm going to do in the next week or so, hopefully, for you guys. So it covers my entire history as a Gears of War player, so that you can get more of an idea of where my opinions come from, because basically I am the product of my past, and that is what everybody is. Everybody's a product of what they've been through and the experiences they've had and the memories they have. And as for my Gears of War opinions, I can cover my Gears of War past for you guys, and you can get a better idea of what makes Chrissy believe the things he believes or think the way he thinks. Other than that, I'll give you a few hints, guys, as to some of the things I want to cover in the next few episodes. I think I wanted to start off with some light subjects, some subjects that I'm not incredibly passionate about, but are a bit iffy. So the first one I wanted to cover in my next episode was Down But Not Out, which was... It was a crazy thing, because it was the most kind of refuted idea about Gears of War Judgment. The moment they said no Down But Not Out, everyone was like, oh god, they've ruined the game! And really, no Down But Not Out didn't really ruin the game. I would prefer it if it was in, but I don't think it ruined the game. I think people overreacted to it, and it still has a lot of... or the game is still really great without Down But Not Out, and I'm not sure how it would work in Gears of War 3 or previous Gears games, but it's not that bad, really. But I wanted to go further into that and why it should be back in as opposed to out, because like I say, I'm a bit iffy about it, but it was something I believe that should still be put back in. Other than that, I think I'm going to cover weapon balance in a whole bunch of different episodes, because when I originally recorded my one video that was going to be the super video of my opinion, it came down to like 25 minutes, and it was all split up into sections. They were supposed to be like 8 minutes a section, and it came down to being 25 minutes long just for doing weapon balance. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of things. Nasher is probably going to be a singular episode. Rifles are probably going to be a singular episode. Power weapons, or certain power weapons, are probably going to be a singular episode. But yeah, I mean... that's just so you can get an idea of what's going to come up in this series. Also going to go through a bunch of mechanics, including the stopping power and stuff like that. But the reason I'm going through and doing all of this, instead of just talking about Gears of War 3 and how that needs to be improved, is because I don't want these mistakes to be repeated in the future. Because, you know, we can say that we just want Gears of War 3 with this stuff, and Epic could sit there and think, oh, that's great. But they didn't mention verticality, so maybe we'll put that in. And so it's important for me to go through things which were really bad, so that Epic can actually understand why they were bad and why they didn't work in the Gears of War franchise, so that they're not repeated in the future, basically. Other than that, guys, I think that's all I wanted to cover in this video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.